Spoiler, Episode 31. Fangs in the Verdant dark. The Ecliptic's hatch yawned open, a maw of wind and dusk, its roar a primal scream that drowned the jet's pulse. Kane Voss stood at the edge, his wiry frame braced against the gale, heart slamming like a war drum. The jungle below was a green abyss, Earthward's bioengineered canopy swallowing the crimson sky, its vines glowing faintly like veins of a sleeping god. Fear clawed his gut, sharp as the shock knife at his hip, but he shoved it down. Slum rats didn't freeze. Zara Rain led, her scarred jaw set, bodysuit rippling as she leapt, a shadow devoured by the void. Sadie Hall followed, her lean frame taut but steady, her sharp cheekbones catching the cabin's glow. Aldus Wellington, stooped but resolute, clutched his datapad, his weathered face etched with grim focus. Rook grinned, and Kane sucked in a breath, the wind stealing it, and jumped. The plunge was chaos, a free fall that tore at his tactical gear, the parachute straps biting his shoulders, the jungle rushing up like a predator's jaws. His stomach lurched, vertigo twisting his senses. The air shrieked, cold and merciless, as treetops loomed, their thorned branches glinting like knives. He yanked the chute's cord, the canopy snapping open with a bone-jarring jolt, slowing his descent just shy of death. Below, Zara's chute was a black wraith, slicing toward a clearing. Kane angled after her, boots grazing vines that pulsed with Verdant's will, their sap dripping like venom. The clearing, a rare scar in the jungle's hide, rushed up, and he hit the ground hard, rolling through mud and fern, the chute tangling in a bioengineered briar that hissed at his touch. The team regrouped, breaths ragged, in the clearing's dim glow, the jungle's edge a wall of shadow and fang-like fronds. Zara crouched, her cybernetic eye scanning the dark, her voice a clipped burr. Intel says hunter-gatherer tribes roam this sector, Quileute or offshoots. They're ghosts, no tech, but they know every root and beast. First move, find one. Get intel on Jinx's whereabouts. Verdant's sensors are everywhere. Stay sharp, no traces. Kane wiped mud from his scarred cheek, his lean, muscular frame tense. Ghosts, huh? Hope they're friendlier than the vines. What's the play if they ain't? Sadie's smirk was tight, her posture alert. We talk fast, Voss. Or run faster. These tribes don't mess with outsiders lightly. Aldus's weathered hands adjusted his gear, his voice a gravelly rumble. They guard ancient secrets. If Jinx is with them, they'll know. But they won't share easy. Rook's quick gestures flicked a blade, his grin sharp. Great. Jungle, killer plants, and now grumpy locals. This job keeps getting better. They plunged into the forest, the canopy, a cathedral of glowing vines and bone-like branches, Verdant's bioengineered flora, whispering threats in every rustle. The air was thick, heavy with rot and sap, the ground spongy underfoot, sucking at their boots. Rook's slum-honed senses prickled first, his lean frame pausing, head cocked. Something's out there, he muttered, voice low, fingers tightening on his rail pistol. Not human. Too quiet, too heavy. Kane felt it too, a weight on his neck, like a predator's gaze boring through the dark. Zara's scarred jaw twitched, her cybernetic eye whirring, scanning heat signatures that flickered just beyond reach. The jungle's symphony fed their paranoia. A distant screech, sharp as a blade on bone. The snap of a twig, too deliberate. The hiss of leaves brushing against something massive. Zara's disciplined stride faltered, her gaze locking on a shadow that moved wrong. Too fluid, too vast. She noted the air's shift, a musky stench cutting through the sap, and the faint vibration of earth underfoot, like a heartbeat too large for the world. Kane's scarred cheek twitched, his senses catching the glint of wet fangs in the undergrowth. Gone before he could focus, and the low, guttural chuff of breath not his own. Rook's quick hands froze, his ears picking up a rhythmic pad, circling, closing. matched by the rustle of ferns parting like a predator's curtain. Tension coiled tighter as they pushed deeper, Aldus and Sadie staying close to Kane, their steps cautious. Aldus's stooped frame moved with surprising agility, his weathered face scanning for signs of tribal markers, carved bones, woven vines, while Sadie's lean frame kept pace, her sharp cheekbones set in a mask of focus, her hand near her shock dart. The jungle seemed to tighten, its shadows clawing at their nerves, until a sound shattered the din. A growl, low and tectonic, vibrating through the earth like a god's wrath. From the gloom loomed a bioengineered dire wolf, a monstrosity of Verdant's design. 300 pounds, 8 feet long, its muscled frame clad in black fur that drank the light, its maw a cavern of serrated fangs, each the length of a man's hand, dripping with venomous saliva. Its skull was a battering ram, scarred from battles won, with nostrils flaring like furnace vents, exhaling a rancid heat. Its claws, curved like scythes, gouged the earth, and its tail lashed, spiked with bone shards that rattled like a war drum. 4 normal wolves, each a lean, 120-pound terror, stalked in its wake, their gray pelts matted with blood, their snouts twitching with hunger, their fangs bared in silent snarls, their movements a synchronized dance of death. They circled, eyes glinting like embers, their growls a chorus of primal menace. The dire wolf lunged, its roar splitting the air, and the team scattered, adrenaline spiking. Kane dove behind a tree, his shock knife flashing, but the beast was on him in a heartbeat, its massive paw pinning his chest, claws piercing his tactical vest. Its jaws snapped inches from his throat, venom dripping onto his scarred cheek, burning like acid. He thrashed, air crushed from his lungs, the wolf's weight a mountain, its rancid breath choking him. Zara vaulted a fern, her curved blade arcing, stabbing the dire wolf's rear leg, the steel sinking deep into sinew. The beast howled, its head whipping back, distracted just long enough for Kane to roll free, gasping. But Zara's strike left her exposed. A normal wolf seized the opening, its jaws clamping her arm, teeth shredding flesh and muscle, dragging her down with a savage yank. 2 others pounced, their fangs tearing at her bodysuit, aiming for her throat. Zara's cybernetic eye flared, her rail pistol barking, blowing one wolf's skull apart in a spray of bone and blood. The second snapped at her ribs, but Kane was already moving, his wiry frame a blur. He tackled the wolf, shock knife plunging into its flank, the beast yelping as it collapsed. Rook sprinted in, his rail pistol spitting slugs, shredding the third wolf's chest, its body crumpling in a bloody heap. The dire wolf roared, its 2 surviving packmates retreating, their snarls fading into the jungle. The leader's wounded leg buckled, but it lunged once more, only to falter as Zara, blood streaming from her arm, fired a final shot, grazing its flank. The beast snarled, then turned, vanishing into the shadows with its pack, leaving a trail of gore and dread. The team collapsed, breaths ragged, the clearing a slaughterhouse of wolf corpses and blood-soaked mud. Zara clutched her mauled arm, her scarred jaw clenched, pain etched in her disciplined frame. Kane's chest heaved, his scarred cheek burning from venom, his vest torn. Sadie's lean frame trembled, her shock dart still gripped, her sharp cheekbones pale but resolute. Aldus shook as he applied medgel to Zara's wounds, his stooped frame steady despite the chaos. Rook's quick gestures checked his pistol, his lean frame wired, his grin gone. "We ain't alone," Rook muttered, voice low, his slum instinct screaming. Those wolves weren't the Watchers. Before they could regroup, the jungle erupted. Fierce hunters, 24 strong, materialized from the shadows, their bodies painted with bioluminescent sap, bone spears and vine whips gleaming. Their faces were masked with carved skulls, their movements silent, lethal, too many to fight. Kane's hand froze on his knife, Zara's pistol wavered, and Sadie's dart dropped. Aldus raised his hands, his weathered face calm, while Rook cursed, his quick hands stilled. "Drop 'em," Zara hissed, her voice a blade despite her wounds. The team complied, weapons clattering to the mud. The hunters bound them with vine shackles, their grips iron, and marched them through the jungle, the canopy, closing like a noose. Hours later, they reached a settlement, a cluster of fungal towers and bone huts, lit by glowing vines, alive with tribal chants and the clatter of bone tools. The team was shoved into a cage of woven thorns, its floor slick with sap, the door slamming shut with a finality that echoed in their bones. Kane slumped against the bars, his scarred cheek throbbing, his wiry frame coiled despite the shackles. Sadie sat close, her lean frame pressed to his, her sharp cheekbones set in defiance. Aldus's weathered hands traced the cage's thorns, his stooped frame unbowed, muttering about tribal sigils. Zara cradled her arm, her scarred jaw tight, her cybernetic eye scanning for weaknesses. Rook paced, his quick gestures restless, his lean frame bristling with slum fire. "We're alive," Kane growled, voice rough. "That's something. But these hunters ain't Jinx's crew, are they?" Aldus's voice was a gravelly anchor. "Not likely, but they know this jungle, and maybe Jinx. We talk, we learn, we survive." Sadie's drawl was soft, her hand grazing Kane's. "Talk fast then, because I'm not planning to rot in this cage." The jungle's pulse thrummed beyond the bars, Verdant's will a living weight, the tribe's chants a drumbeat of fate. The core waited in its vault, a distant spark, while the team faced a new crucible, captives in a savage Eden. Their hunt for Jinx, a thread stretched taut, ready to snap.